Hi everyone, welcome back to GameMaker Cast. It's Mickey, and in this video we're going to be working on the wave generator for a spaceship game. Let's roll the introduction and get right into it. Now, in order to get the wave generator working, we at least need to have one simple enemy. So let's open up our parent object, which is object enemy. And in here, you can see that they have 3 children. So no matter which enemy we spawn, they're going to get the create and step event unless we overwrite it. In this step event, let's add 4 pixels to the Y position of all 3 of our enemies. This will just move our enemy from the top of the screen going down. Now let's actually open up the spawner, which we're going to be working on. If you're not sure how the spawner is created, if we open up the setup object here, and we go to the create event, down here near the bottom, you can see that we are spawning in the spawner itself, so it's automatically going to be added into our room. So let's switch back to our spawner here, and let's open up the create event and maximize this, as we're going to be working a lot with this. Now to keep track of the waves, let's create a variable and just set it to 0. Now our waves are going to be an array made up of a bunch of structures. It's actually pretty easy to understand once we get going. So let's create our variable called enemy waves, and this is going to be an array, so we'll use the square brackets. Inside the array, we're going to have an element of a structure, so each one are going to be using curly braces. Now within this structure, we're going to have a bunch of different variables. We're going to have a timer, which is how long it takes before we get to this wave. So you can see I'm using the game get speed, so this will get our current FPS, then just multiply it by 1, so this wave will take 1 second before it comes. We are also going to store the enemy that we're going to spawn, and in this case we're going to spawn the red enemy. Then we'll also have the number of enemies to spawn, so we'll spawn 6 of them, and we're going to store a starting position also in a structure. So we'll use a position start that is going to have a X and Y position. We'll close the structure for the position start because we also need to add a certain amount to each one of these variables. So let's create a new struct for position add, and inside here we will also include an X and Y position. So the position add is how much each is going to be added to the start position for the number of enemies. Don't worry, this will become apparent in a minute. Now with this done, let's return to our workspace, and we want to open up the step event for the spawning enemy. Again, we'll maximize this, and inside here we need to count down each of the timers. So that means for the wave that we are on, using the current wave variable, we'll -1 from the timer. Then we'll need to check to see if the timer is less or equal to 0, meaning that we need to spawn this wave. We'll use a simple for statement to loop through the number of enemies that we need to spawn. We'll create a temporary variable called XX. We'll take our current start position and then multiply it by the position that we're going to add times the number of enemies. Let's do the same thing for the Y position. And finally, what we can do is we can create an instance on the layer enemies, and we're going to initialize the object that we passed into our wave using the X value and Y value from above. Once that's all done, we can increase our wave counter, and if our current wave is bigger than the number of waves that we have, let's just destroy our instance completely, so we'll remove our spawner. We'll finish up by adding the curly brace on the end of the if statement, and now we should be able to run our game. We'll have our spaceship flying left and right, and within 1 second you can see we have some enemies happening. They don't shoot us and they don't hurt us, so that will be in the next video. Thank you for watching the video in this series. If you're looking for the full source code to this and many others, check out my Patreon site or in the HIO link. If you have anything you want to see covered, please let me know in the comments below. In addition, a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters in no particular order: Jerica, David, Victor, Edward, Robert, GameMaker Community, Mary, Paul, and Ashby.